There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is in the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone. The immortal words of Rod Serling, and luckily for us, this reimagining is in the safe horror hands of the masterful Jordan Peele. If you didn't know already, the latest trailer for Peele's adaptation of the Twilight Zone has recently dropped, and luckily for us, it's packed with some pretty pastiche references. So let's geek out and take a look. Hello horror fans, and welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, top 5 scary videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 Easter eggs you may have missed in the Twilight Zone trailer. Roll the clip.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination.
Now we're going to jump straight into this video, but before we do, it's important to note that this latest trailer very clearly shows 3 reimagined classic Twilight Zone episodes, as well as some completely unknown narratives, so be forewarned, spoilers and speculation lie ahead. Kicking off at number 5, Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
There's a man out there.
What?
Look, he's crawling on...
Perhaps the most legendary Twilight Zone episode ever released, and definitely the most referenced in pop culture. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was the 123rd episode of the original series, written by Richard Matheson and based on his short story of the same name. It featured a man named Robert Wilson, played by the legendary William Shatner, who is the only person on a commercial airliner that can see a terrifying monster out on the wing. Legit, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was so ahead of its time, and the concept struck on some pretty harrowing fears. Mainly, what the hell do you do when there's a gremlin at your window and no one believes you? Well, guess what? It looks like we're about to get treated to a Jordan Peele adaptation of the same episode, seemingly starring the awesome Adam Scott in the same role as Shatner. Although 10,000 feet higher, and this time it kind of looks like things might take a slight divergence. In the original episode, Shatner never left the plane and the show landed on a pretty open-ended cliffhanger, but in this one it seems that Adam Scott's story takes him to several different locations. I mean, the biggest giveaway is that the gremlin from the original episode washes up as a doll on a beach, seen clearly in the trailer, so I guess we'll just have to find out. I'm so excited. Coming in at number 4, It's a Good Life. And it looks like we're set to have a pretty politically charged social commentary episode in Peele's upcoming series, based around perhaps one of the Twilight Zone's most revered episodes, It's a Good Life. And to be honest, I'm absolutely stoked that this is the direction that Peele is taking, recombobulating the classic themes and narratives laid out in the original, then twisting them through his horror mind machine into something completely relevant to his contemporary audience. It's exactly what this world needs right now. It's a mirror held up against society, making us do exactly what Rod Serling always intended, to question everything. Well, the plot of It's a Good Life featured a terrifying 6-year-old boy named Anthony Fremont, who had godlike mental powers and zombified anyone who disagreed with him, like an entire town's worth of people, who were all terrified of angering him in case they got turned into a jack-in-the-box and then were sent to the cornfield. No one could sing, no one could laugh, no one could dance. Well, in Peele's version, it seems a similar kid, now called Oliver, is running for president. Sound familiar? Yeah, we're not exactly sure which direction this will take, but it's set to be perhaps one of the most enlightening episodes of the series. Next up at number 3, In the Nick of Time.
You put a penny in, and out comes a card. Only this particular machine, which you'll see next week, is a little bit unique, in that the fortunes that it tells happen to come true.
Now, the 49th episode of the original series, titled Nick of Time, was set entirely in a diner, and there are several scenes in the trailer alluding to this same place, although the connection is yet to be determined. However, the Nick of Time also features a devil head fortune-telling device known as the Mystic Seer, and guess what? We see it rearing its fortune-telling head clear as day in the trailer. We can speculate then that the two characters seen in the diner are related to a reimagining of this same episode, although this time one of them is a cop. Jordan Peele is an incredibly important writer and director because he is succinctly and unequivocally a narrative voice for black people in America, and it seems that his adaptation of this Twilight Zone episode will point toward similar societal themes. In Nick of Time, the episode features a newlywed couple, Don and Pat, who find a fortune-telling machine that answers yes or no questions for a penny each. What plays out is some pretty uncanny reality-altering shenanigans, a questioning of their own moral compasses, and I'm stoked to see Peele's own conceptual version of this. Swinging in at number 2, the entire cast. Yeah, you heard me correctly, the entire cast of 2019's The Twilight Zone, because it's absolutely stacked, not in the conventional way, but in the same way that The Twilight Zone took hard-working yet underappreciated actors like Shatner, highlighted them at their best, and then, well, I mean, then you get to be Captain Kirk, I guess. I mean, just take a look at this new cast and you'll see what I mean. We've got The Walking Dead's Steven Yeun alongside Greg Kinnear in an episode titled The Traveller, with Yeun taking on some kind of mystic reality-bending tour guide, which looks awesome. Then we've got Star Trek's John Cho alongside Alison Tolman of Fargo fame, starring in an episode titled The Wunderkind, which is anyone's guess how that whole thing is going to go down, but it looks pretty insane. And then of course Parks and Rec's Adam Scott in an episode titled Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, a spin on the classic. Sanaa Lathan stars in the first episode titled Rewind, and the incredible and incredibly hilarious Kumail Nanjiani is starring in a yet to be named episode, although it has something to do with his lost dog that he doesn't have. Damn, I'm so excited. And finally, at number 1 spot, Jordan Peele himself.
A man both nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Answers are new questions.
Because this is a point that needs to be hammered home, and the trailer seemingly highlights this fact already, as well as the exclusive teaser trailer before that. The Twilight Zone was the Twilight Zone because of Rod Serling, a man who perhaps was a little bit too weird for Hollywood, who didn't quite fit into the prescribed mold, but he had a story to tell, an idea that resonated in the minds of young and old people across the planet. It was universal horror at its best, and every week people tuned in to listen to his dulcet tones and watch as a horrifying story unfolded before their eyes. Straight up, no beating around the bush, Jordan Peele is the man to fill Rod Serling's shoes, not because they're particularly alike, but because he's not trying to be. And what this trailer highlights is exactly that. We see Peele sat at the same diner as Sanaa Lathan in Rewind, and the glance that he gives to the audience is the equivalent of one of Serling's monologues. I'm stoked to see the lengths that the show will go to utilize Peele's role as the narrator, which may perhaps take it to lengths that we've never before seen. So far, there have been 6 incarnations of the Twilight Zone's narrator, with Serling himself and Forrest Whitaker being the only 2 to take the physical form. The others, well, they were just disembodied floating voices. If you couldn't tell, guys, I'm incredibly excited for the release of The Twilight Zone and its first 2 episodes, which should be hitting our screens on April 1st. What about you guys? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know you will. If you're a fan of this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe bell, and we'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you better take it easy.